Let's talk about modern controls. In Street Fighter 6, there are 3 separate control options for players to choose from. Classic controls are the standard type of controls that you find in the Street Fighter game, after Capcom realized that beating the shit out of the controller in Street Fighter 1 was probably a bad idea. Modern control will be the subject of today's video. And finally, there's dynamic controls, which was the result of a disgruntled Capcom employee slamming his desk. Dynamic controls are objectively hilarious, however, they're only available in single-player mode. So if you're going to be playing online, and let's be real, you're going to be playing this game online at some point, you're going to have to choose between classic controls and modern controls. So, what makes these controls modern? Modern Controls is a control scheme that changes the standard 6-button layout the Street Fighter games are known for, and replaces them with a 4-button layout, not unlike games like Dragon Ball FighterZ and DNF Duel. And just saying that second game's name has made me question what went wrong again. Instead of having separate attacks for punches and kicks divided up by strength, you have a light, a medium, and a heavy attack, with the 4th attack being dedicated for special moves. Because of the way the attacks are formed now, it means that you lose access to some of your normals, but you don't lose access to half of them. Some specific moves like sweeps are tied behind directional commands, but others are tied behind the auto combo sequence. Now obviously with this type of control scheme, it's generally normal for players to be able to use sequences of moves to string them together. So lights will go into mediums, mediums will go into heavies, and heavies will either end the combo there or do something that lets the combo keep going. But this is Street Fighter. If you were to give the character the ability to cancel their weaker moves into stronger ones, you would fundamentally be breaking the game, so we can't exactly do that. What you can do though is hold a button and mash one of the attacks and you'll get a full combo. This is known as an auto combo, and they're not uncommon in fighting games nowadays. In fact, auto combos have been a rising trend in the world of fighters for the past few years now, with Dragon Ball FighterZ being the most well-known example of this. Probably. Now the neat thing about Street Fighter auto combos, apart from them being kind of bad, is that some auto combos use normals that you can't access normally because of the cut down normal list. For example, Ken has a normal on standing light kick that looks like this. Now, this move is deceptively powerful for a light attack. It comes out in 5 frames, it has really good range on a light button, allowing it to check dashes and mashes, and it can easily be special cancelled into a special move for more offense or a confirm. Or it can be cancelled into a drive rush for, more offense. Also, it is extremely safe on block. You don't always want to use this move to pressure, however, because of its good range when compared to standing or crouching light punch, and its ability to check enemies, it's a good neutral tool for when you're just out of someone's striking range and you're looking for an opening. Now, normally when you're playing with modern controls, Ken, you don't have this option, as your light attacks are standing light punch and crouching light punch. You can get crouching light kick sometimes, but can't mash it out, so I don't really know how you get it. It's kind of weird. Like, if you mash it, it then reverts back to mashing crouching light punch. I don't know, it's really weird. It's very strange. I don't know why they did it like this. However, if you do the light auto combo, the first attack you get is standing light kick, meaning that by simply pressing combo assist and light once, you basically gain access back to your standing light kick, which is a nice way of doing things. Not every attack can be accessed like this though, meaning that classic controls will always have more normals when compared to modern controls. But how do you do special moves? Do I still have to do the scary quarter circle to get a fireball? No! In fact, in a line from Capcom themselves, you can throw a fireball with a single button press. This is done by using the special move button. By pressing a direction and the special move button, you will activate one of your character's special moves. You can still use the motion input for some special moves, however, because there's only 3 buttons, some special moves have to be activated with the special move button. If you want to do an OD version of the special move, you simply press the auto combo assist button and the special move button at the same time, and for super moves, it's as simple as pressing the special move button and one of the attacks. Light for level 1, medium for level 2, heavy for level 3 in critical art. Drive parry and drive impact both have their own separate buttons as well, so we managed to condense the 6-button layer of the Street Fighter games down to a nice, clean 7 buttons. Let's fucking go! Now, there has been some level of controversy when it comes to the new modern controls. A lot of people have very strong feelings about them. Classic Street Fighter players are outraged that they're allowing motion inputs to simply be done with a single button press, that their years of hard work is being torn away from them for these easy baby controls, and new players saying that they could never do these ridiculously complex motion inputs, that they were all always too hard to execute and master, and having sometimes vital moves and strategies locked behind motion inputs is a form of gatekeeping. So, who's right? Are modern controls making fighting games too easy and leading to degenerate strategies? Or are they a good way to get players into these games by removing the features that players have struggled with for years? In my opinion, it's neither, because it's a little bit more complicated than that. You have to understand this is coming from someone at this point who has nearly 4 years of dedicated fighting game experience. I wouldn't exactly call myself good at Street Fighter specifically. I did manage to get myself into mid-plat with a few sessions of dedicated play, and I've had a lot of experience playing higher level Guilty Gear. I can throw a fireball, I can anti-air DP, I can even do really cool Ken combos that take you corner to corner, and I can even do them in matches sometimes. Modern controls aren't made for someone like me. They're made for people who A, don't know how to play fighting games that well and want an entry point that lets them get into the engaging part as fast as possible, or B, for someone who can't do motion inputs and wants to play these games without feeling like they're unable to do them because of physical or mental limitations. And for those people, modern controls are fucking amazing. Now, I do have to state that I think that with enough time and dedication, literally anyone in the world can consistently do motion inputs. There are people in the Street Fighter community with all sorts of physical and mental issues that are able to compete, and in some circles absolutely dominate, despite them not being neurophysically typical. However, I understand that it's not exactly the most fun obstacle to overcome. There's nothing more frustrating out there than when you see someone do the most obvious moon jump towards you, and when you go for a Dragon Punch anti-air, your character decides to shit out a fireball, or worse, just flail their arms wildly. Giving someone the option to simply go, oh, it's anti-air time, and remove that annoyance of not being able to do the input can get people more engaged in these games and actually get players to play with purpose much faster. Which is the best bit about fighting games if you ask basically anyone who enjoys these games. And it's not like modern controls are just better than classic controls. Because of the way that the modern controls are set up, you basically only get 2 versions of your special moves, your basic one and your OD version. With classic controls, you get your light, medium, and heavy versions alongside your OD version, meaning that you basically have double the options for special moves against modern controls. And every version of a special move can have different uses, which leads to more strategies. For basically every character that has multiple fireballs, the different versions of those fireballs will affect its speed, meaning that you can have different strategies on how to approach your opponent. Hell, DJ's fireball can send out different amounts of fireballs depending on the version that you use. 0 for light, 1 for medium, and 2 for heavy. Do you want to send a fast fireball to keep the pressure on from full screen, or a slower one to follow behind? Maybe you want to change the speed so that you mess with your opponent's parry timing. These are complexities and strategies absent in modern controls, as it only has 2 versions of each special moves. It's either kinda fast or OD. There's no variations. This also affects the combos that you're able to do. Remember that cool corner carry combo that I showed you earlier on Ken? As it is, this combo is impossible on modern controls as you don't have access to the crouching medium punch at all, meaning you can't run people from corner to corner like this. Sure, there are other combos that modern controls can use, and there's probably a version of this combo which lets you do a similar thing to a similar effect. However, this combo is already classic exclusive tech, meaning that even though the skill floor has been lowered, the skill ceiling must have also been lowered. This shows that Capcom has managed to do what they set out to do already, and the game has only been out for like, what, a month? Barely even that. The lacking of variations on special moves and the limiting of normals and awkwardness of using all of them leads to a control scheme that is definitely much easier to use and get the basic grip of, but there's an interesting downside that begins to rear its head when the control scheme isn't picked up by a new person just learning how the game works, but is instead given to someone who already understands the ins and outs of how fighting games function. Modern controls don't allow players to be able to do strategies that other players can't do. In fact, it does actively remove complexity and functions from the characters they're playing to give them a stripped down moveset. But then what does it give them? It gives the players speed. Every motion input in a fighting game naturally requires a certain amount of time to come out. And I don't mean the startup frames, I mean the process of actually inputting the special move takes several steps of the player doing the motion. For a fireball, the fastest that someone could theoretically input the move is 3 frames, if they manage to do the input perfectly. Unfortunately, no one is perfect, at least not consistently. So in a match, it would probably take someone more around 5 to 8 frames for a player to be able to do the motion input for a fireball. With modern controls, that input delay is reduced to 1 frame, as it is literally as simple as pressing a button. Now this to the human eye isn't exactly noticeable. In fact, in most fireball situations, it's pretty negligible. But what about anti-airs? Again, generally negligible. In Street Fighter, even if you do an air invincible move late, you still get the benefit of landing the attack without being hit. So even if you're not as fast as the modern control counterpart is, you'll still probably land your anti-air if you get it out successfully. Classic won't be as consistent, but you'll be able to get that consistency with time and practice. In fact, when I first started playing, I couldn't anti-air DP for my life, but now I feel upset if I miss the DP because I practiced it so much. But there's another option that begins to show a slight problem with the controls. Everything is one input, including super moves. Now, if you don't know, super moves in Street Fighter are generally double quarter circle moves. So you do something like down, down, forward, forward, down, down, forward, forward, and then a button, and that's how you get a super move. This is of course 6 directional inputs, which if we applied the logic of how fast it can take for the input to be done physically, it can take anywhere from 10 to 16 frames to input it by the average person. But once again, with modern controls, it is just 1 frame. Basically 10 times faster than a normal human input. If you're going to be playing one of the Shotos, you can actually use your critical art as an anti-air, and it does a shit ton of damage. However, if you're on Classic, you're going to have to do the full input, and from my experience, it's definitely possible, but is it possible on reaction? That's when it starts to get a little bit tricky. The speed and consistency at which players are able to execute super commands in modern controls can lead to situations where players are able to do things that can be practically impossible on classic controls. While I'm not saying that you can't react anti-air CA as characters who are able to do that, you can't deny that it's an option the modern controls have much easier access to when compared to classic controls. Same with mashing out of frame traps and dealing with DI and burnout. Instead of having to prematurely buffer the super input when you think it's gonna happen, or just have godlike reaction times, you can simply beat it with the single press of a button and get out of the situation unscathed. But is it enough to make them bullshit? Is there any more? Is this all overblown? Well, yeah, it's kind of a bit overblown. Listen, for some reason, this control scheme has become the scapegoat for several players and has become somewhat of a joke amongst the community. For longer time players, there's a sort of unconscious bias when they see people playing with modern controls. They assume the person using them must be unskilled, new, and doo-doo dog-ass at the game, and they're using modern controls as a crutch. However, that's not always the case. Modern controls is literally just a different way to play these games, and it offers its own advantages and disadvantages. You literally trade raw control, damage, and combo opportunities for speed and consistency. Wait, so if you think modern controls are okay, what's with the title on the thumbnail? Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. We're really close to 50k subs, and if we were to hit it tonight, I would be very happy. So please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I'll see you all next week. As always, a very special thanks to 64MHz, Almost Nap Time, Ben from Canada, Brudica, Savantas de Leon, Daniel Wiederit, Dragonprox, Games.png, I Am Naoto, Jackal Reeves, MP04, Nhoa, Ray W, Super, Forcon, Tom Tanks, Voltaic Charge, and Zandatsu for being Tier 2 patron supporters.